Welcome back to Kubernetes the hard way. In the last episode, we generated all the TLS certificates our cluster needs for secure communication. Today we are going to create kubeconfig files. These are the configuration files that tell Kubernetes clients where to find the API server and how to authenticate. Think of certificates as your ID card and kubeconfig files as the instruction for how to use that ID card. In this episode, we will generate kubeconfig files for kubelets, which are on worker nodes and control plane, kubeproxy for network management, after that kube control manager, kube scheduler and admin for us to use on Jumpbox machine. By the end, every component will know exactly how to connect to and authenticate with the API server. Let's get started. Before we start generating files, let's understand what a kubeconfig file actually is. A kubeconfig file is a YAML configuration that contains three main pieces of information. First is cluster information, which specifies where is the API server. Second is user credentials, which provides information about the user. And the last is context, which binds the cluster and user together. Why do we need this information? If we don't have it, then let's say every time we want to execute some kubectl command, for example, we have to provide all the information in the arguments like server, after that certificate, after that client certificate, etc. But with kubeconfig, we can just execute kubectl get pod and all the information will be fetched from the kubeconfig. Each Kubernetes component needs its own configuration because they want to connect to different API server endpoints. Let's start by generating kubeconfig files for the kubelet on each node. We have to generate it for node 0, node 1 and node 2. Let's start with this for loop. Let me copy this somewhere. Edit it here itself. One thing we have to change is our server is node 0. Okay, let's remove the node 0. Okay, we have configuration file for node 1, node 2. Let me break down each command. In the first section, this is for cluster section in the kube config file. The certificate authority is a CSR to verify API server. Embed certs means we want to embed the certs itself in the file with B64 encoding. And server is basically the endpoint for the server. In our case, it's node 0. And this is just the file name which we want to create. Second section is for the user section. Client certificate is it's basically the certificate for client's authentication to verify the client, and client key is node's private key. Embed certs is again embed the certificates in file. And the last section is for context which binds the cluster and user. Basically, cluster name is Kubernetes the hard way, and the user is this. We are using this username here, and we are using this cluster name here, and we are providing the kubeconfig file. And last command is to use the context which we have just created, which is this default context. We are using it as a default one. The name is also default, and we are setting it as a default. So we will be generating the config file for our server separately. Let's edit that. Yeah, that's the only change. Okay. So let's check the file once. This is user section, this is context section, and this is cluster section. We have to generate config for control manager as well. Let's edit the server name here. Scheduler as well. And last is for our Jumpbox user or Jumpbox machine. This is fine actually. We will be connecting to API server via port forwarding, so we can keep it as is. Now we have to pass those configuration files to each of the machines. So first, basically, we are creating the folder inside var lib. First folder will be kubeproxy and second is kubelet. And we are creating these two folders on node 0 and node 1. Inside that, we are copying the file, kubeproxy file via SCP. So we are copying this file into kubeconfig, and we are copying the host specific file to the kubeconfig kubelet kubelet/kubeconfig. Let's do that. We have node 1 kubeconfig and node 2 kubeconfig. Okay, files are copied. Next, we copied the kube controller and kube scheduler kubeconfigs to the node 0. So that's it for this section. I think we provided all the kubeconfig files to appropriate components. See you in the next video.